everybody just wants to tie a nice happy bow around a story like this.
But that's what's interesting, is that people would often congratulate us and say, oh, you know, how wonderful you found your twin. And certainly we were glad to have this, you know, I was glad to have this mystery that, you know, surrounded my life answered, because I had often said to friends that I felt like I was missing a twin, but it didn't mean I wanted a twin, and it didn't mean it didn't complicate things, and it certainly, you know, is a big shift in your identity. You know, as I write in the book, then, you know, I say, je suis une jumelle, I am a twin, but you can't say that. You certainly couldn't, you can't say it in French grammatically, and to say that, not, you know, growing up not having any biological relatives who resemble you, to suddenly being confronted with an alternate version of yourself, your double, is, you know, a very frightening thing. It's, you know, it's a pleasurable, it was a, you know, pleasure to meet someone so like myself. So it's kind of, it brings out the narcissism. But then on the other, you know, on the other end, you're looking, you know, in a like narcissus looking in the lake and admiring yourself. And on the other hand, it's, you know, frightening to see aspects of yourself, the best and the worst in yourself, and to wonder then where does this relationship go? Who am I? You know, and then, you know, it's troubling if I were raised, you know, by these questions of identity, larger questions of what makes you who you are. If I were raised by Paula's parents, if she were raised by mine, would I be her? Would she be you? So there's a threatening feeling that you see in literature of this idea of the double, and, you know, and how it can usurp your identity. So it was good and bad.
The good thing is you both seem to have happy family lives. That your families were good. You're still solid with your surviving parents, and
Yes.
and the two families seem to get along when they got in the same room.
They do, and in fact, last week we celebrated our 39th birthday together, even though we look remarkably young for 39.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have gone over 30 myself.
Oh, thank you. But in fact, it was our 4th birthday that we've spent together, and both sets of parents were there with really twice as many friends.
So we were saying it's almost like having in-laws, you know, that then they're these benevolent people, you know, who are, you know, they know me as their daughter's sister, and there's, you know, something like the relationship of in-laws.
There is a dark side to this story, because you think twins, haha, so cute, separated. But the reason you are separated, well, you'd think after Dr. Mengele and twins, especially Jewish twins, that nobody would screw around with twins and experimenting. But
I agree. It is surprising. I mean, obviously not to compare what we've experienced to anything, you know,
no,
it's
but
not
still,
even the same territory.
It's early down the same road, but it's still the same road.
Yes. Certainly, it is kind of chilling to think that I think basically, you know, the idea that Dr. Paula Bernstein, who was the chief psychiatric consultant at Louise Wise, the adoption agency, had a theory that twins would be better off if they were raised separately, but she had absolutely no research to back up this claim, and so it was completely unsubstantiated. And then her colleague, Dr. Peter Neubauer, said, well, he literally said, this is an opportunity, you know, to now study them if you're going to separate them. But no other agency at the time agreed to do this, and even though they asked other agencies, they tried to recruit other twins, they didn't succeed in doing that, and so it was not widely accepted at the time. And you would think that they would have considered the kind of moral and ethical ramifications of their actions, and clearly they didn't.
Yeah, adoptees are not guinea pigs. You know,
Yeah.
just because in that case, then, so there should be a ruling across the nation that all twins should be separated. But then why didn't she try to make legislation that all twins should be separated if she strongly believed this? So, I mean, we don't think she was a bad person or an evil person, but she was certainly very misguided, and I think as a lot of scientific researchers do, then choose to delude themselves into thinking they're doing this for the good of the greater good.
How do you feel about, are you friends? Are you relatives? Or you're co-writers? But where do you think you are, and where do you think you're going to go?
Well, when we met, it was undeniable that we were twins, but we weren't quite sisters, and neither one of us could actually say that. We would even correct people. Someone would say, oh, I saw your sister, and I'd say, well, actually, she's my twin, which is interesting that we really made the distinction, whereas now we do refer to each other as sisters, I think.
I think then, you know, we've been learning, or we're constantly learning, and, you know, this process of getting to know what it is to be a twin in our relationship is constantly redefined. And recently I realized, you know, one way to describe it is that before there was a genetic link and an intimacy that we felt, you know, sharing the same biological traits and having, you know, similar experience being born on October 9th as adoptees in New York State, all of these similarities as well as the appearance and other traits. But that was all genetic or biological based, and now our family is based on more than that, as we know as adoptees. And now we choose to be family, and that's really the beautiful part, is it's more than blood.
And now we have a shared history as well.
It's a really good read, and you're both really good writers, which
Thank
is
you so much.
the chances of that
Well,
happening.
again, genetics, right? The fact that, people said early on to me, because I had, written a bunch, Elyse had written too, but had not worked in nonfiction as much. But people had said to me, so is she a good writer? And I said, well, it's in the blood, I think she's a natural.
Well, it's nice that you're not identical strangers anymore. That you're,
Thank you.
you've got something
We're
in your
identical
book.
sisters.
Identical friends.
The book is Identical Strangers, a memoir of twins separated and reunited. I've been speaking with the authors Eylse Schein and Paula Bernstein, and Identical Strangers is published by Random House.